What is up, everybody? We are back. Our first talking shop of 2024 DC on RMD. I am back after my long-ass suspension. I think the last one I did was the Blue Beetle racist show. Thank you for the fans on the internet for defending me.
¿Cómo está?
And not the little fucking honky dude that adopted a bunch of Mexican kids and felt like he needed to defend themselves.
He fostered Slowpoke Rodriguez.
Yes.
Yes.
CC, senor. So it's been a while since I've actually been behind this microphone. I wasn't suspended. We were just on break. But
No, you were cast into a white prison.
Yes.
Yes.
You were semi-canceled.
Yes, I was semi-canceled. I've worked my way out by picking up Mexicans and doing lawns with them.
Oh my god.
Oh,
Oh, no.
Blue Beetle was an excellent movie, though.
Did I not
It
say
was.
so? I told you it was a good
good
movie.
I honestly was shocked that, and again, as a white man that grew up Mexican with plenty of Mexican people who got the jokes, it was very good. I don't know why it didn't get the praise and the critical mass that it is. And being that...
One of our listeners, Bob, said something that was interesting about Blue Beetle when we were in the midst of discussing that it was actually a decent film. She posted on our Discord, I forgot her name at the moment, but she posted her own analysis of Blue Beetle, and she said she enjoyed the movie. However, the mistake that she thinks they made was that they made a movie, DC, about the Latino experience, which may not go over with everyone, whereas what they did with the Spider-Verse, Miles Morales was simply Latino.
yeah.
So she said that's probably the better way to go because it's more of a crossover picture that more people can understand. Whereas when you have a film that's steeped in a specific culture, it may not be completely, it may not gel. Yeah, accessible. There you go, with certain audiences. I don't know. You're a white man, and yes, you did
Yes.
grow
Allegedly.
up within Mexican circles or Hispanic circles, but
Totally.
did you find any issues trying to understand any of it?
No, because every stereotypical joke that George Lopez did, I've seen in a Mexican family growing up.
Yeah.
Including the car and everything else, and it was entertaining. The kid's a star. I'm sorry, I can't remember his name offhand.
And that's why James Gunn's bringing him into his new thing.
And with a industry with a lack of young star power, that kid owns the screen.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's charismatic
so-
for sure.
By the way, Michael, Thomas, and David are with me. I'm sorry I went on my
Hello.
racist rant right off the bat because, I've been fired up about that for about 6 months now.
You've had to hold that in for a long time.
100%. I've been put on trial and everything else over that time.
He brought a tiki torch with him tonight.
Yes. And I got my fucking boat shoes on.
Choose.
So, but anyway, let's get into what is going on here. We cover the Superman show here.
Yes, we do.
Two of the guys cover it. What do you guys feel about this cancellation? Because I have my own opinions on what is right and wrong with everything that is happening right now. But I want to hear from you first before I give my 2 cents.
Okay, so Superman Lois is truly an exceptional Superman series. It is well done. It has not had a single moment where I'm like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
I'm not embarrassed because there's sometimes where I'll watch something for the network and I'm actually embarrassed. I'm by myself watching it, but I can't believe I'm actually watching this. Yes, the later seasons of Supernatural, I'm like, this is kind of
The
embarrassing.
Winchesters.
If I were to tell somebody I watched this show, I don't know if I would,
Yeah.
be able to keep a straight face as I tell them, oh yeah, check this out. I watch this regularly. But Superman and Lois is a very well written show, directed, produced. The people behind it understand Superman to a T. They get what the Superman mythos should be about.
Yes.
And I stress Superman mythos because much like Batman, when you're dealing with Superman, it's not just the actual hero himself that you're dealing with. You're dealing with the world that revolves around that particular superhero.
Yes.
And you have to understand the world and how it operates, the rules, the themes. Same thing applies with Superman. And they do it perfectly. Now, we all knew that this would possibly be canceled.
Time was running out.
The moment James Gunn and his team said DC as it is numbered, and it's time to start canceling things, and nearly 99% of all currently running DC TV shows and movies that were in the works were canceled. And the only one, pretty much, to resist the cancellation purge was Superman and Lois, and that solely has to do with its quality and how many people enjoy the show. That being said, we all knew it was on borrowed time. James Gunn, I believe, said something 2 years ago that he would allow the show to run another 2 to 4 years, is what he said. And that was what, a year and a half ago, 2 years ago?
Because
it was right when he first took over.
Because even in a lot of interviews that we were discussing on our show was like James Gunn was really was actually sounding like he was behind the show because he liked the quality they were bringing.
Yeah. It would have been weird as well, just from a PR perspective, for him to just go in and cancel a show that's so well received critically, and not just nerd fans, actual critics, real critics were praising the production of this show. So for him to go in and cancel something that's just been critically loved would be kind of a foolish mistake when he's trying to garner goodwill, and he already has some negativity aimed at him because he's canceled other things that people love. But the things he canceled, let's be honest, they weren't really doing wonderful things.
They weren't doing wonderful things.
They weren't lighting the world on fire by any means. I mean,
wasn't.
Gotham Knights was not anything special.
I was really. I had a Gotham Knights flashback, and I was just imagining that again.
Titans fell apart. The only other show I could point to that say maybe it could have lasted a bit longer was Doom Patrol. But that's it. Yeah.
And because like Doom Patrol was actually we could argue it was in a separate universe, and he can leave that alone.
Yeah.
But
my question, I guess, is, did this need to be canceled? Is there really going to be any type of viewer confusion between a movie and a TV show?
That's what I want to get into here. Is that James Gunn came in, and with all the hoopla, he's like, we are not going to cancel or get rid of other people doing the same projects because we're going to put these in the Elseworld category.
Yes.
Now, we've all flipped through books in our life. And by books, I mean comics.
Yes.
We have Batman. We have The Dark Knight. We have how many different titles that are able to tell different stories about the same characters without people getting confused. Why aren't they using that same thing on a television show to where if we have something that is already successful or can be successful as a standalone on its own, keep it alive, because the Superman people are going to want Superman content. Just like the Batman people are going to want Batman content. And if you can tell both those stories at the same time, and one audience can lead to another, be like, maybe there's new Superman fans that didn't know it was out there. And, they go see Superman Legacy, and then they figure out there's a Superman TV show out there. And then they're like, well, maybe I'll go watch this Superman TV show. And they're like, fuck, this is good also. They're telling a completely different story than they are in Legacy, the movie that just came out that I loved. And now the people... I'm not saying that they need to go ahead and release 27 different things. Like, you know, how many, like the top DC books were like 37 Batmans, and then like, Justice League, whatever it was last year. It was something weird like that. I'm not saying that we have to fragment it like that, but I think
people are smart enough to understand TV and movies and separate the two.
You'd like to
and I don't think it would confuse audiences. I'm wondering, and I don't want to think James Gunn is petty like this, because I like the guy, but how much of it is also he watched this, which we know he did, and he's like, fuck, this is really fucking good.
Don't compare it to my Superman.
Yes.
You're not going to be able to get, no matter what type of movie you make, you'll never be able to do the nuance that this TV show has done.
Oh, yeah. Especially after last season.
And I'm wondering if that possibly makes him feel a little threatened. So let's pull that away so I can adjust the appetite for what I'm making.
So he's that dude that invites another guy in his bedroom and his wife moans a little bit different. He's like, we ain't doing that shit no more. Get the fuck out of here. I can't do that to her, so you have to leave. I just...
Don't be that guy. Be the guy that says, oh, look, you can do something
fuck
I
her
can't.
harder.
Yeah, do it. Do what I can't do. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to go over here and drink some milk.
Milk?
What?
What the fuck?
Milk was
Just
a bad
popped in my head.
choice as he's coming everywhere.
Oh, this just...
I think we got a Freudian slip into David's life.
He's like, give me your milk, big boy.
Yeah.
The fuck just
Throws
happened?
random... like milk. What are you meaning?
That was straight up like a Will Ferrell moment.
If I didn't know any better, I'd think you're a virgin, Dave. But I
I'm
know
just
These
into weird
boots feel
stuff,
like-
man.
but I know that's
just
far
into-
from the case.
That just popped in my head. I'm just into weird stuff. That's all I'm going to say.
These boobs
my
feel like
God.
sandbags.
Aren't you guys into like lactating? Like that's pretty good.
Yeah.
Squeeze that nipple, get that milk, a little sweet.
Oh,
Especially-
my God.
Especially like accidental sweetness. You're like, whoa, what's that?
But
I have done one of those.
See, I'm not the only one.
I sucked a little too hard.
I'm not the only one.
I think though what we get when we allow the IPs to be produced by different people is that we're going to get a wide range of stories and everything else. And as long as he's overseeing what's going on, as I try to pull this back together, watching Thomas just fucking laugh his ass off.
Yes, I've broken Thomas permanently.
Yeah,
sorry.
Thomas is broken. I just don't understand why, especially with the lack of DC content that is out, because I don't think we're going to get anything new to the end of this year. I think Penguin comes out.
Yeah.
I hate to say it. I just think that basically Warner Brothers and James Gunn, they're seeing basically they're trying to judge the room at this point. They see that basically, hey, the audience wants linear storytelling. They want everything to connect.
No, they
So-
don't, because I am the audience.
Yeah.
I do not want everything to connect because I am watching what's happening with Marvel right now and how it's getting destroyed because everything is connected. So when one thing fails, the dominoes all fucking fall together. They all, you can either stack the dominoes right and you can build this big old fucking tower, but once one falls, they all go down.
But Bobby, you
That is
gotta
true
actually-
because if you think about a TV show, because you have to look at movies like these interconnected universes now a lot like TV shows. In fact, they're being run a lot like TV shows. So think about it. If you have 2 or 3 seasons that are poor, what happens to the viewers? The viewers start to feel it. Like, this is what happened. The last 2 seasons have not been very great. And you start to lose interest. That's what's happened with movies because everything is interconnected. When it comes to Marvel, you have 3 or 4 bad movies, and suddenly now there's this consensus that, wow, this is kind of bad. It's shitty. What's happening? And they forget that 90% of the other films that were pretty solid. So Bobby is coming from a place of, I think, merit. Like there's something to
he
be
is.
said. But I don't think we need to shit on all interconnected universes. I have brought up Star Trek before. Star Trek has been interconnected since the 1960s.
Yes.
But they have always done it right. They always make sure every movie and TV show is loosely connected. And what I mean by loosely is the people who are in the know,
Yes.
and the people who don't need to know.
But the problem
Whereas
is like,
Marvel went the other direction. You really needed to know.
Yes.
Yeah.
And especially not just Marvel, but also in DC. I mean, if you think about it,
Yeah.
even in the DC films, everyone was like saying, well, everything has to connect. You have to know this. This ties into this and this and this. And then now you could see like the I'm probably in the minority, but the last 2 movies that DC came out with, Aquaman and Blue Beetle, were fairly decent. They were good. I enjoyed them, but unfortunately, box office wise, they didn't resonate with the fans. And why?
Aquaman's actually doing really well in the box office.
Yeah, but it's not resonating with the fan base.
Well, it's because the fans know it's the end.
Yeah.
That's the thing. Is like it's one of the reasons I stopped going to see these DC movies is because I know there's essentially no point to it with the James Gunn Etch-a-Sketch reboot
and
number
that goes
17.
back to Bobby's.
That's the
whole
problem.
point.
When we were watching Tim Burton type Batman movies, we weren't like, oh, fuck, like it's going to end. It's like, oh, shit, there's a Batman Returns 3 years later. Cool.
Yeah.
Like, and we weren't looking at Superman to come into the universe. We weren't looking at like all this interconnectivity to come out of it because it was just like we were happy to have a solid standalone thing. And that's what I think the issue is. It's just like we don't have that anymore. And I like it's so weird.
But I think it's because these were like the vestigial remnants of that interconnected thing. Like, because if they were entirely their own, then I think maybe I would have been more interested in it. Like, because I did go see The Batman with Robert Pattinson.
What you're saying, Thomas, I've heard from other people. The reason why they didn't want to see Aquaman or the last couple DC movies is because there is no point. The story's over. So to Bob's point, I mean, it's a valid analysis.
Yeah.
Like it creates problems as well. Certainly, if you can guarantee that you're making all solid pictures, then the plan works. But the moment there's a dip, everything can fall apart.
But the interconnected universe, and I swear we keep having this discussion, if you look at what Marvel did in the interconnected universe in phase 1, it wasn't about making everything together. It was about a fucking 45-second end scene of Samuel L. Jackson going, "You're my bitch now, come with me." You know, and it wasn't like, oh, like, well, there's a guy here that we have to go find, and oh, he appeared in the movie, like now they're really together type thing, like when we saw what DC do with Flash and everybody else. I'm not saying that doing the Justice League thing together, like before people got standalone movies, was the like the wrong choice. It was a different choice. But the fact is, if the Justice League was solid to begin with, then everybody could have had their spin-offs off of that, because then you use that one movie to introduce all these characters together. Like, imagine if the Justice League was how the universe started. These characters all come together. You don't need another fucking background story. These are the most popular characters in the fucking world.
Well, that was the animated show.
Yeah.
The begins with that. And I had said this years ago. The first movie they should have done should have just been that 3-part thing just turned into real life.
Yeah.
Because that would have been perfect. It sets everything up perfectly.
And then
great.
Then everybody can go off to their own worlds.
Fuck off to their own thing. And then you could have a Justice League 2 whenever, if you wanted to do that.
Yeah, when some kind of critical event happens. And so, but again, going back to the point of like why we canceling this TV show, we're not having DC content for almost a year, like into the actual new extended Gunn universe.
2025, right?
Yeah. So why are we canceling this so soon when you could probably give Superman and Lois another season after this?
A lot of it has to do with budget. CW is fronting a lot of the budget now, and they've already requested massive cuts. They have been cut down. Superman and Lois's final season has been cut to 10 episodes, and I believe 90% of the cast has been let go.
Is AI?
90%.
I'm not exaggerating.
Yeah,
it's like 90%.
Are the boys in college now?
It's B-roll from the previous season.
It's just the family, basically, and Lex.
Okay.
And that's it.
I was like...
Everyone else has been offered guest
contracts.
Yes.
And their characters since last season have been essentially kind of written out. Each of them have their own written out moment, even down to the 2 sons. I mean, John's apparently going off to back to Metropolis. So you can write off that actor, and there's your budget shrinking down even more.
What's the budget on a dude that ain't been in nothing but Superman and Lois? Like a Happy Meal?
Like,
it's half a chicken McNugget.
Yeah. I mean...
I bit half of it, and you get that.
The Actors Guild got them big time raises during the strike. Speaking of people that got big time raises, Joker's 2 now has a massive budget.
Bunch of idiots.
Dude,
and then the reverse happened.
What a stupid
I know
fucking
you
move.
wrote on the show notes, try to stay positive.
No,
but
look, I'm positive that this was a mistake.
There you go. That's the way of putting
it. This is another example of DC screwing themselves by just throwing their plans out the fucking window. Quit making plans. The whole point of these small DC films was to keep the budgets very low
small.
and focus on nuanced stories
Yes.
that focused basically predominantly on character. That was the whole point.
So
A $200 million Joker movie? That is fucking laughable.
200 million after it was $80 million, I believe, the first time.
60.
60?
Wikipedia says 55 to 70 is the estimate.
And it made over $1 billion the first time in a different era of Hollywood. So now we've created that to 200 million, which means we need to make 600 million to break even.
Yeah,
Yes.
pretty much.
In this era of, I want to believe, and Thomas, if you want to look this up for me, what was the highest grossing movie last year? Was
1.5 billion with Barbie.
For Barbie. And then
I think number 2 was like Oppenheimer at under $1 billion.
And then I think Mario Brothers was up there.
Yeah.
That's with a viral.
So those 3 movies were the only movies last year that made over $1 billion.
Yep.
Only one of them is Oppenheimer rated R?
Oppenheimer's rated R. So Barbie is 1.5.
Oh, yeah, because they have fucking sex in there. I forgot.
Mario Brothers is 1.3, and Oppenheimer was 957 million.
So you are making a $200 million gamble on a movie to repeat itself for something that when the era has changed. And again, we are not getting billion-dollar box offices anymore.
Going off of it had to make, let's say it had to make 600 million to break even. Last year, according to Box Office Mojo, only 7 movies pulled that off.
Yeah.
When you have a company like Warner's that is drowning in debt, still, even after all of the cost cutting they have attempted to do, and they are taking a chance in destroying massive potential profit gains because they're giving a $200 million budget to an indie picture, essentially. I mean, it's not, but technically that's what they were trying to do with these, is give it an indie
feel, if nothing
vibe
else.
to it. I mean, okay, so a movie did great. 60 million, it made over $1 billion worldwide, right? That's beautiful. Well, at least maybe I would understand 100 million. I still think it's a little excessive for a Joker movie.
Yes.
With no CGI.
With no CGI. It's still ridiculous. But when you have Gareth Edwards making The Creator for $80 million, and you have the awesome talent behind Godzilla -1 doing things for under $100 million.
Oh, 60 million.
And then you have Joker 2 asking for $200 million. You're asking to fail.
When they already own the IP, it's not like that's
And
part of the
If
budget.
they would have boosted their budget to say 80 or 100,
I'd still say that's too much.
I would say it's too much, but I
Yeah.
would somewhat understand because of the massive success of the first film.
And that would be the raise in the actors.
Right.
You know what I mean? I would understand that.
Correct.
So for context, in 2019, when Joker came out, you had 9 movies that made over $1 billion. Last year we had 2.
Yes.
That's the difference, and you're like, yeah, let's triple the budget of this fucking thing.
Yeah. And it seemed to come out of nowhere because, again, what we're dealing with is a non-CGI superhero film. Like, I don't see any kind of, you're not going to see any kind of budget going to that. So what does 200 million buy you in an indie film?
Coke?
Exactly. Because
We got them on real drugs this time.
I'm even thinking when I saw that article that you sent out, Bobby, I saw that basically like the price for Joaquin for Phoenix and
Gaga
doesn't even come close to their budget.
Well, also this is a big misstep to me. If you're going to up the money this much too, isn't it supposed to be a musical?
Yes.
So you mean, and that's the
Have
thing.
you ever heard,
That's what I was going to bring up to you, Mike.
Have you heard my theory of
Not
why
only-
it's a musical?
Lady Gaga, I'm sure.
It's the insanity of Harley Quinn.
Yeah.
Stories told in her
So
head.
you don't think
So
the
it's still
whole
in his head.
thing is going to be a musical, or do you think the whole?
No,
No,
just
it's,
parts.
It's going to be a musical.
I
The
think,
whole
I
thing.
think
Yeah.
what we're gonna get is a Willy Wonka type
Yeah.
thing, which
Yeah.
was another excellent film that came
face right there
Where
is
there's,
what I was
there's
trying to
songs
get at.
throughout.
out. But it's
Because-
her in slowly going insane because of the Joker and her translation from Harleen Quinzel to Harley
Harley.
Quinn.
And think about it, Mike. You were getting right there with the risk that they are taking. They're taking a risk on this indie pick that they started with an indie pick,
Which was a risk.
which is a risk in itself, and it's a risk in a superhero genre. But not only that,
In
it's
this
a
day and
risk
age.
because it's a musical too.
in a post superhero Hollywood.
Superhero Hollywood.
There are going to be, I don't care if you're a Batman bro and you just live and breathe for all things Batman. There are going to be a lot of Batman bros who are like, what the fuck?
Batman bros hate the Joker anyways. They don't understand that because there's no...
do they?
Yeah, because
Really?
the way... Yeah, if you ever read some of like the trolley type things that people write at the bottom of it, is like even the article I put in there, they might have them to where it's like, I didn't like the first movie anyways because of the way they portrayed Bruce Wayne and all this other bullshit. And
As a child?
No, Thomas Wayne.
Oh.
Thomas
They
Wayne.
were
sorry.
mad about Thomas Wayne.
Yeah, Thomas Wayne, and then like it's not really Batman, it's not this, it's not that, and they were, so and they didn't understand that it was a picture of probably one of the best films based on mental health and how to
Yes.
explain it, and just
Depressing as hell.
yeah,
It is very depressing.
and they just didn't understand it, and so they fucking hate it. So Batman Bros, I don't expect to see it. Like, this is for the intellectuals.
But-
Unfortunately, those people aren't the ones that are going to see La La Land.
Well, the other thing too is that
Exactly.
I'm not
There
a
you
big
go.
musical guy, and I was gonna see this otherwise, and now I'm like,
I
can wait.
You know what's funny is I'm a guy that everyone knows I love movies. That's my whole thing.
Yeah.
We have comic book freaks in this network. We have superhero freaks. We have car freaks.
We have milk freaks.
We have milk freaks. We zoom in on David.
Oh God. Why milk?
That's just hey,
Beer, whiskey.
So you're a movie guy, Mike.
I'm a movie freak, and there's one genre that I really dislike.
it's
It's the
Snuff.
music. I hate musical
You've
films.
always stated that you've hated.
No,
musicals.
give me like 10 snuff films. I'll watch the hell out of a snuff before I watch. No, there are a few musicals out there that I
There's a
do
couple.
like,
There's a
they're-
couple.
But
Sound
you
of
have to say
Music.
they're old.
but I don't.
Dude, that's a
classic
great
films.
movie.
But
Sound
oh-
of Music, Grease.
Yeah.
Those
Yeah.
are two great
Yeah.
movies.
I liked Wonka.
The
What-
original.
The
No,
original.
The one just came out.
Oh, I-
Is that a musical?
It's the
Yeah,
same.
it's the same.
The whole thing's like
no,
a musical.
No, it's
Just
it
parts?
breaks out in song and dance.
So
every
like a
once in while.
Disney type thing,
Yes.
almost.
Yes.
Okay.
very
See,
good.
that doesn't bother me as much, but I still have to ask why. Like, I know this guy Todd Phillips is trying to be different with Joker. I get it, but I'm just like, dude, most people are gonna. You know what? I'm gonna wait. I'm gonna wait before
gonna
I
be
start
fair?
complaining.
Like,
I'm gonna
I-
be fair
like,
because I'm
let's
gonna
wait till
see
we
what he has planned. Because
a trailer, a synopsis, like
if it's like what Bobby says, that it's like in her mind, and there's a justification why we're breaking reality, then okay.
how long have I been doing this, Mike?
You're probably right, because if this is because rule 101 writing 101, once your world is established, you cannot change it.
Yes.
So unless they're changing realities, singing is going to be quite odd in
And
the
it's-
world of Joker.
But and again, remember what I like when I explained why Birds of Prey worked about Harley Quinn's
Yeah.
insanity.
Yeah.
It made you change your mind, right?
Yes, and if they make a creative reason for it, then I would be more
Because
open to it.
if they go Mad Love route, we're going to see the transition, and in the transition, I could see song and dance being part of her insanity.
Yeah.
Bottom line. So
I am looking forward to this movie. I'm just disappointed, to bring it back to the main point. I'm just disappointed that Warner Brothers just can't stick to their plans.
They don't. They're very chaotic with their
you know
decision
why?
making.
You know why I care so much? Some people may say, "Well, who cares? This is just them throwing more money at the Joker." But this is a behavior.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's endemic.
It's a pattern of behavior that hasn't changed, and it's not going to change. They're going to continue to break their plans and strategies on a whim whenever they feel like it. And that's why I keep saying I'm confident with what James Gunn has in store. I'm confident with his abilities. I'm not confident
That Warner will
in the
stick to it.
lordship of Warner's allowing Gunn to continue down his
yeah,
path.
because what we deal with here, it's the dude that has a good credit score, but also has $100,000 in credit, like that.
In debt,
Yes.
yeah.
And that they just keep opening up another credit card and maxing that bitch out too.
And then using a firm.
Yeah. Wait. What's wrong with Affirm? Why are you judging a fucking Solo Jerks conversation?
That's just what people now are doing.
I
to
know.
Put
I
themselves
thought
in
you were
debt.
judging me and Ryan about our whole Affirm company.
No, I was reading an article earlier today that
Patreon.
people are now getting themselves in debt over Affirm. I'm like, way to go, America.
I can affirm I have debt. But what we're dealing with here, like, again, is that they don't trust the process, and that they're again, there's no reason to throw this kind of money at it because it's probably going to be based in Arkham Asylum. That could be in any fucking studio built in fucking 10 seconds and go on from there.
Hollywood's always been terrified of taking risks, but like it is a new fucking level lately.
Yes.
And they're terrified of not getting the biggest audience ever and and making billions, and as a result, like they try to make something that appeals to everybody, and so then it appeals to nobody, and yet the
problem is that Hollywood is making things that only appeal to the minority and don't appeal to everybody. When you gotta, if you're for superhero genre, and I've said this to Mike off air, and I'll say it on air, that the people you need to focus on aren't the fucking 1%ers, like, you know, the people that need character representation to feel good about themselves. It's the 19 to 49-year-old fucking males that have funded this goddamn industry for the last 100 years.
It's not just the superhero industry. The main demo,
movie industry.
The demo for almost every company that's hoping to solicit and sell is 12 to 30. Boys and males,
because we're the ones who waste our money.
Yes. And for some reason, they're defying logic just for purposes of liberal thought. It doesn't make, for diversity reasons. It doesn't make any sense that you're making movies for people that don't exist in bulk.
There's a
mass.
lot of people talking about the fictional audience that they're making these things for an audience that truly does not exist.
Yeah.
But on paper, or
CW
more
did it
accurately
for
on
10
Twitter,
years.
Yeah.
Literally, and I'm not making a joke here. If you remember, Bob, we talked about this on a DC Talking Shop show, where the CW, when they were first purchased by that new company, Star, the new lords of the CW, and they released all this data that no one is watching the CW. The alleged demo which was
55
supposedly
to 90-year-old women.
That was the actual demo.
Yes.
When they were actually programming stuff for a progressive
tweenie
that didn't exist.
It didn't exist.
They ended up getting the people that their little clicker didn't go past the CW, and they never changed the channel.
Yeah, they were still switching to UHF.
Yeah.
You know,
they were waiting for that colored guy Wayne Brady to come on to watch.
Too young for that.
Yeah, it's also like
confused.
the
You're not
worst
ready
of
for
both
that, Thomas.
worlds. No, it's like the worst of both worlds though, because they're making these highly specific audiences on paper, but then the movies are also bland and inoffensive like Bud Light, and so nobody wants to fucking see these things.
That's the mystery I've always seen in Warner Brothers and DC is kind of like they can't seem to get out of their way.
I don't get it.
It's chaotic decision making.
They're the worst.
They're the worst at it.
They absolutely are the worst.
So you mean to tell me you're going to throw $200 million at a risk like Joker, but you're going to cancel one of your more successful TV streaming shows that has brought in numbers for you, but no, we're going to cancel you because, you know, we got to take this money over here.
They should have given that $100 million boost to the producers of Superman and Lois, and they could have churned out 3 more seasons.
Anything else?
Also, how is the budget for The Flash $220 million, but the Joker $200?
That is
one's
ridiculous.
just pure
It's
incompetency.
ridiculous.
Yes,
Just
but
astounding levels of fuck up across the board.
but understandably,
You have to pay Ezra
movie-
Miller twice.
Oh, right.
You had to pay his legal bills.
No, you had to pay him twice because sometimes he thinks he's a woman. Sometimes he thinks
That's
he's
the
a
joke I was going, and I stopped.
I don't give a shit. I know what you were doing for each of his personalities.
You
See,
like
that's
stopped.
exactly what I
You
was about to say.
It's just amazing. Like, again, you go look at the budgets for some of the other Warner Brothers films that have been put out over the years. Even Aquaman was 205 to 220 or 15 million for The Lost Kingdom.
It didn't feel like it. It really didn't.
So again, I don't know if these include the reshoots and everything else, but at least the initial budget was that, and we were talking about on that level. We are making an insane asylum that was on the same level as an underwater movie.
Yes.
We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see what happens there. So, a lot of the movies that were canceled along the way, one of them was Deathstroke.
Oh, now it's sad.
Now it's
And old Joe was talking to Jimmy Gunn. James Gunn told him to let that go.
Told him fuck off.
Yeah, basically told that. It almost sounds like the Wonder Woman conversation, like when he went to Gal and Gal's like, "Oh, he said that if we talk about it, he'll bring me in," which means they're never going to talk about it. So he told Joe to let it go.
That is
Joe
wow. That's Hollywood speak for eat shit.
Wait, James Gunn actually told him to let it go?
Yes.
Wow.
So Joe went and had a conversation with Jim Lee. Jim Lee's like, "Hey, we can release that story as a graphic novel."
Which is genius. I was actually laughing at this because I saw this on my comic book news. And I was like going, I swear to God, if the Deathstroke comic comes out and Jim Lee basically says, yeah, this was going to be the movie, Bobby, for a fact that fans are not, you think the PR mess is bad now. It's just going to get piled on. This is another thing to pile on to the pyre. That is, let's hate on Warner Brothers and James Gunn.
So if this ends up coming out and being good, is that a bad thing?
Yes.
Yes, it is.
You think it is? Or is this proving concept?
I think this is...
I've always said the best stories that they could ever tell in DC if they would just go back to the library and choose the right things. James Gunn with Brave and Bold, Legacy, and some of the other things seems to be the nerd that is going to the canon to come up with the stories that he wants to tell.
Oh, see, okay, I get your perspective. Yeah, in that regard, yeah, I can see your point. I was looking at it more from the perspective of if this is good, it may end up becoming a backlash or backfiring, because look what happened with Josh Trank's Episode 9 script for Rise of Skywalker. His version, when that was leaked, people read the script and were even more angry about The Last Jedi and Rise of Skywalker. So this might backfire when it comes to certain people who are still on that Snyder train, who can't get off that train for dear life. That might say, well, look how great this is. Look, this would have been perfect. Here we go again. Yes. Trashing something that could have been good. So it could backfire from a PR perspective. I don't know how much time you spend on social media when it comes to DC, but these DC people have become really fucking fickle lately because they're becoming almost as bad as Star Wars fans.
Yes. Because
they've been jerked around, just like Star Wars fans.
Yeah, I mean, they're in an abusive relationship at this point.
Yeah.
Both groups.
And the hilarious part, when I saw this, Bobby, I saw this news, I know for a fact Jim Lee can assemble a really good writer. He has some of the best writers behind him in that bullpen in the DC writers' room for comics right now. They're probably the strongest when it comes to the two bullpens, Marvel versus DC.
Yeah, well, Marvel hasn't done a good comic in who knows how long.
Oh, it's been a while. But like when it comes to
when was
doing
House
this story.
1973.
I do think that you're right, Mike. It could open some real old wounds on DC fans.
Okay, now remember, let's flash back to the initial announcement of James Gunn being put on, that the universes were all going to be connected, that Jim Lee and him were going to be at a hip.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So Jim Lee's probably not doing this without Gunn's permission, and Gunn's probably not doing anything without Jim Lee's permission if they're truly working together. Or they've already said, fuck
is
you.
Is this a Brangelina setup? And there's like violent shit happening behind the scenes, but we just pretend like everything's okay because we haven't even gotten to the first fucking movie. In the 15th iteration of a plan?
I don't know.
At this point, I would hand the keys to a drunk, is what I'm saying. And just get in the car and say, you got this, dude. Because what I just got out of has been so horrifically planned and bad. Like, it's shocking.
I
It's like
I
Disney's
want this.
implosion. It's just going to be something that's studied decades from now
Yeah.
in film circles.
Oh, absolutely.
And saying, what the fucking hell happened? And we don't even have the excuse of doing cocaine anymore like we did in the 80s.
We can.
I mean, we probably should at this point. We have less stupid ideas.
What were you gonna say, Mike?
I want this to be good, and I will actually check it out because I was highly interested in this version of Deathstroke. But I do wonder why they didn't just, like, if there was, I understand they have plans and strategies, and I get that, and I do want them to stick to their plan. But if they have viable characters that have already been cast that people love, why not find a place for them in your new story?
Because it doesn't fit his story.
But when
If Gunn
that's
if
true,
Gunn
but he
has a
did the
story-
same thing with the Blue Beetle guy. The actor, I forget his name, that played Blue Beetle was so liked that he had said that the Blue Beetle movie itself,
John Cena, same
is-
thing.
yes, has not been included in his DCU. However, the actor that plays Blue Beetle has been brought in.
But the fact is, if you look at the Blue Beetle, it goes back to my like the conversation I've had for 20 years. Blue Beetle stands on its own. There is no interaction with anything else.
Yeah.
So you can bring that in.
So you think that it's just an easy
you can
fix.
bring that into your universe because there is no
expectations. Yeah.
The weird thing that's going on here is that, like I said, they're bringing Peacemaker into the world.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Peacemaker is part of it. You know, season
Waller.
2 and Waller and some of those things that have been connected. And I only bring up Peacemaker because Peacemaker had the Flash and it had Aquaman.
Well, from what I read, yes, you're right. And there was also mentions of other things that were obviously from the prior guard. But from what I heard from Twitter, from a post he made, James Gunn, the second season of Peacemaker is basically just going to feel like its own, standalone. Like they're not going to veer purposely from the first season, but they're also not going to purposely try to connect it.
Okay. I don't know. It just with the whole comic book thing. I like I've always said this, that DC probably should focus on what made them great before movies,
And I've 100% agreed with you. on
which
that
was
ever since
comic
you brought
books,
it
video
up.
games, and animation.
Yeah, animation, man.
They
It's
they
fucking
rule the
great.
roost, and there's some things coming out with Bruce Timm attached to it, Cape Crusader, and some of those other things that are going to be interesting to see how they fit. Again, if they are really working together, comic books and the movie and like DC Entertainment as a whole, they should be working together. And I would, like I said, if the Deathstroke story is a story, and the thing is, Mike, you brought up a little bit earlier that you said, why don't they bring this character in? Deathstroke's somebody to me. Deathstroke ain't nobody but a fucking Deadpool ripoff to everybody else.
Is he really?
No.
Oh.
But no. But if you ask everybody, you
No,
look,
If you ask,
that's the
like
consensus?
some
Yeah.
fans, yeah, he's just a copy of Deadpool.
even though it's the other way around, but
Yep.
Deadpool came first in the movie thing, so why would a Deathstroke movie actually work? Because what you have is a one-eyed masked assassin
No.
that almost, you know, with
Well,
swords and guns.
Darkseid and Thanos, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, one of the first DC on RMDs we ever did is like who we played a game called Who Came First, and it wasn't about milk. You know, and we brought all the characters that you know, like because everybody copies everybody in this industry,
Oh, heck yeah.
and Deathstroke has been around way before Deadpool was, but Deadpool made it mainstream first.
Yeah.
So I think that's what you get is there. You always have the comparison of Marvel and DC, and and it shouldn't be. We should want quality thing. There shouldn't be a divide like there is. Like everybody should just want good shit, and we're
Yeah.
not getting good shit from either side. So you shouldn't point at fingers at going, well, Marvel did this and DC did this. No, they're not doing good.
Yeah.
Do better.
Both are hemorrhaging, guys.
Yeah, do better for us, or I'll be happy to see a comic book movie every 18 months like I was previously.
Well, video games are making a lot of money in the entertainment adaptation world, and there's a lot of talk that might be the next big thing.
Yeah, well, and
So maybe that'll give
Oh, I can't
everything-
wait for the Apex Legends movie. God,
everything to
it's so
like take
awesome.
a pause.
Oh, the
you know.
Roblox. Oh, can't
Well,
wait.
you had Mario Brothers and you had The Last of Us on the TV show, and now you got Borderlands just announced.
Borderlands announced.
Although I don't know about that one.
Yeah.
Oh my God, Kate Blanchett though. Always. Why is
she's-
she so hot?
She made a deal with the devil to never age. Like
Like she's getting hotter with age.
But again, maybe we are transitioning out of that thing.
But that might let some of these movies, these superhero genres, breathe. You know, take the dildo out and try and reassess their life priorities.
Well, and again, I think
I like how he says, you know, it needs to breathe. And then he says, take the dildo out.
Because they've just been.
Do you got to let the asshole air out a bit sometimes?
No, but sometimes
are you gagging on it?
But
You're a dick sucker, aren't
sometimes you have to just not. Sometimes you have to stop actively fucking yourself. That's what they've been doing. So.
All right. Yeah. So.
That was
Stop.
very aggressive.
Whatever you're doing, stop actively fucking yourself.
I think that's an important life
That
lesson.
needs to be a tweet from Thomas's Twitter account to Warner
Brothers.
At Warner
Stop
Brothers.
fucking yourself.
The official Thomas
Sometimes
Calvin. Stop
you-
fucking yourself.
No, sometimes you need to stop actively fucking yourself. That's what.
Yeah.
Can you passively fuck yourself?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sure. You just have you
It's
seen
like
those?
accidental
Have you seen
masturbation.
those OnlyFans chicks that just sit on the dildo and just kind of move slow?
Oh, yeah.
Or the ones that the machine operated and it just does the
Yeah,
work for you.
There you go.
A love-ins. I should know what those things are called.
What did I didn't even know. What is it? What?
Nothing. Yeah.
I think that's just how you end that.
Yeah, no, it's all good. It's interesting, and I think 2024 is going to be a good year for DC. Again, some of the HBO content that's coming out with the Penguin, Cape Crusader, things like that. I'm actually looking forward to, even though we don't have any movies till 2097.
It's a weird turning year
Dead
because
Boy
Marvel's doing the
Detectives
same thing.
For Netflix will be good. That's something DC fans can look forward to.
Sandman
season 2. Now those are not being run by Warner's in any way. It is
But those are
something
those
licensed.
2024 releases?
I believe Dead Boy Detectives is coming out later this year.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that should be really fucking good. And thank the maker, Netflix picked up the trash that DC left because it wasn't trash.
Okay.
So that's dude, it's awesome. I love it. They saved Dead Boy Detectives because it was being canceled at HBO Max before it even had a chance to see the light of day. And the powers over at
maybe
Netflix.
they'll buy Batgirl too.
No, probably not. But Neil Gaiman had
Neil Gaiman's the one that's actually leading that
he
charge.
had an invested interest
Oh
because
yeah,
it's
weird.
his property.
What did I say? When you give people the opportunity to use things outside of IPs?
I listen, Bob. That's one of the best things best ideas you've had on this network when we're talking about what these studios should do. When you mentioned that, why does Disney have to hold on greedily to every single IP? If there's something that you don't want to make a movie about because it just doesn't fit your family desires,
License it,
your
make
ideology, then license it out to somebody who is willing to make this movie.
Oh yeah.
Weird. That was old school television.
What?
Yeah.
What?
It's funny how much comes back to the way things were.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When you would see the CBS logo pop up on the end of a Fox show and be like, what the fuck?
I was always confused when I was a kid. Like, wait a second.
Who changed the channel? Anyway,
It's so true, though.
that'll do it for our first Talking Shop of 2024. Thank you guys for listening. And again, thank you guys for defending me on the fucking internet. I love you guys sometimes.